Yo, what is up? It is your boy Zether, back at it again with a brand new video. Now, as you guys can see from the title, this is going to be what if Deku was in the Butt Jiggle gang. And I don't know if you remember these guys, but they are some true scoundrels. And I mean, if you guys remember some of that fairy tale filler, you guys will definitely know how powerful these guys were. I mean, they were able to take down Urza in one shot with point blank ecstasy. So, I don't know, man. This deck was probably going to be my most overpowered one. Yeah. This deck was probably going to be my most overpowered deck that I've ever made. So you guys better stick around to the end of the video since it's going to be a really good one. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Alrighty, guys. So the way that this story is actually going to be starting is that when Deku was born, this man is going to be born with a dump truck. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. He gonna be a little thick. Now, this is when Deku would pretty much go for the next couple of years, living as a normal kid up until he gets his quirk, read to him, as the doctor would tell him that he has a pretty intense, gas quirk. As Deku would say, "What do you mean gas quirk? Can I make gas?" As the doctor would say, "No, kid. It means that your body just produces an intense amount of gas, and when you release it, it's going to be pretty devastating." As he would say that you could make for a great hero, just chuckling under his breath. As Deku would just kind of start, getting red in the face, as he's just like, yeah, I think I'll not do that. As the doctor would say, "Oh, I understand." As Deku would just be sitting there like, yeah, yeah, man. As the doctor would just laugh as soon as he gets out of that room, thinking that was the most hilarious quirk that he's ever seen. What kind of a quirk is that? As Deku would just be extremely embarrassed, just like, kind of like in the thumbnail. That's pretty much what he would look like at that moment. As this is when Deku would pretty much spend the next couple of his years living as he did in canon, telling everybody that he was pretty much quirkless since he was too embarrassed to tell them all what his quirk really was. As for the next couple of years, Deku would pretty much live in the same way that I used to, admiring heroes and wishing that he could be a hero himself. Maybe he could be a hero without using his quirk. Maybe he could become a hero. I mean, he has a quirk, so he's not exactly useless, but the quirk is useless, so it's like Deku just kind of feels like he might as well not even have one. So this is when Deku would pretty much spend the next couple of years living as he would in canon, up until the day of the Sludge villain incident, when all of that would pretty much go to canon, except when Bakugo would say that maybe if he wants a quirk, he could swan dive off the roof. Deku would just be thinking to himself that he could actually take them all out in one go, as Bakugo would just be angry and Deku would just be tempted to load up one of those, them point blank ecstasy blasts, as Deku would just be there like, yep, I guess. As that entire situation would go as it would in canon. And this is when Deku would pretty much be walking under the canal, thinking that, I wish I did do that. I probably might be born in my next life with a better quirk. As Deku would just be walking down the little alleyway, as this is when the Sludge villain would pretty much appear out of the sewer, grabbing Deku before Deku had a chance to react. As Deku would start to get enveloped by the Sludge villain. And this is when Deku would start losing his consciousness. He would begin to fade away as Deku would wake up inside the fairy tale. Just kidding, you really thought? Hell no! Anyways, this is when Deku would pretty much start to lose himself, as he would find it hard to breathe, as he would try tearing the Sludge villain off of himself. And this is when a man in shining armor with thick eyebrows rivaling Rock Lee and Mike Guys, as he would jump down right in front of the Sludge villain, as he would release his toxic gas onto the Sludge's face, as the Sludge villain would just go, "Oh, whoa!" As the Sludge villain would just jump off of Deku and run away, holding his sludge, just grabbing his own sludge, be like, "What? My sludge burns!" As Deku would have been grabbed by the man after he had let him go. As Deku would wake up and see 3 guys right in front of him. As Deku would say, Where am I?" As the guy would say, "I saved you, kid. So, why were you here?" As Deku would say, "Oh, I I was just walking home and the sludge villain attacked me. As, the guys would just look at each other as they would say, huh. As they would then start examining Deku, asking him why he didn't just use his quirk to defend himself. As he would say, oh, I mean, I'm quirkless. As he would ask the trio of scoundrels why they saved him. Why did they save me? As they would say, oh, saved? I mean, I thought, as they would just like huddle up. He'd be like, boys, huddle up. As they would all just pretty much start talking and trying to figure out a reason as to why they even saved Deku in the first place. As the guy would come outside and he would say, well, we're a gang of scoundrels, and we just wanted to, see what it would be like to be heroes for once. As he'd be like, yeah, that's right. As the two goons behind him would be like, yeah, you tell him, boss. As he would just start smiling in the way that Mike Guy would. As he would then point a thumbs up right towards the squad, as he would say, well, kid, where ye best be going? We have a lot of crimes to go commit. As Deku would say, crimes? Why? As they would say, I don't know. That's just who we are. We're scoundrels. As Deku would just say, is there any way that I could join you guys? As they would all look at each other and just be like, huh, is there any way that he could join us, boss? As the guy would say, and this is when the leader would say, listen, boys, we can't exactly just take everyone in. As they would say, what's your quirk, kid? That depends on your quirk. As they would be thinking that maybe if this kid has a powerful quirk, they can use him. Maybe they can use him to do more dastardly things. Sorry, boys. I was drinking some good old water. Now, this is when Deku would begin to, just go red in the face. As he would then say, well, I have a quirk called gas. As they would say, huh? Gas? As Deku would say, yeah, it pretty much allows me to shoot out really extremely stinky gas from my... As their eyes would widen. As they would say, kid, you're in. As they would pull out a skin-tight jumpsuit and say, put this on now. As Deku would say, wait, you're gonna sit there and watch me? As they would say, you're right. That is the wrong thing to do. As they would turn around and just be like, huddle up, boys. As this is when they would all pretty much start to huddle up. As Deku would just be putting on the costume. As they would turn back to Deku once he finished, and they would say, kid, you're her natural. As Deku would just smile to them, and they would all just begin to do their butt jiggle initiation. As they would ask Deku to start jiggling it with them. As Deku would begin to pretty much start, shaking some... He'd begin to get down with it, you feel me? He'd start throwing that thing back. As, this is when Deku would pretty much be told that he's a perfect match. He fits right in with them. From this day forward, they will no longer be known as the trio of the Butt Jiggle Gang. Now, they will be the, how do you say four in a cool way? The four members, I don't know, guys. Just imagine something that pretty much they named themselves just to be goofy, right? As this is when Deku would say, so what does being in this entail? As they would begin to pretty much tell him that, little crimes. As he would ask, what's the most crazy crime that they've ever committed? As they would then proceed to look at each other and say, well, what is the dangerous crime that we've committed, boss? As he would say, well, you remember that one time we stole that candy from that baby? As they would say, you're right, boss. That was truly evil. Only a true scoundrel would do that. As this is when Deku would proceed to be like, you stole candy from a baby? It's the easiest thing in the world. That's why the expression, stealing candy from a baby. As they would say, well, I don't see you doing any dastardly deeds. As Deku would say, I got an idea of something we could do. As they would look towards him and say, yeah? What is it? As Deku would say, well, how about we go steal some cargo? As this is when they would all pretty much look towards Deku, and as Deku would pretty much from now on be the brains of the operation. He would be the brains, and he has the same quirk as all of them. All of them share the same quirk. That's why Deku was the perfect fit for the job. as this is when Deku would pretty much go online and begin to look up some trains that may contain some pretty good cargo, as they would pretty much decide on one train full of gold. As this is when the people, the people who hired the train actually had a couple pro heroes go with them that are actually going to be fighting with them, and these heroes are going to be Mount Lady. Mount Lady, who else? Mount Lady, we got someone with motion sickness. Endeavor, and Mount Lady, Endeavor, and someone that looks like a kid. Mount Lady, Endeavor, and let's say that somebody's in on an internship with blue hair and she has a wind quirk, as she's pretty much like Wendy. All right, let's just do that. As this is when pretty much they would pretty much decide their date that they're going to be doing this, and instead of Deku training for the next 10 months, they would all train together. They would pretty much be waiting, and for the next 3 months they would pretty much whip Deku into shape. They would get Deku to do the same workouts that they do and the same dances to get their physique in perfect condition. Their, voluptuous curves that they have. As this is when Deku would pretty much proceed to, just train with that and, start using his gas in a way that doesn't make him embarrassed. After hanging out with these weirdos, he decided that maybe he isn't so weird. If these guys have it, then why is he weird just because he has it as well? As this is when, for the next 3 months, Deku would pretty much just be doing that. As this is the day when when the mission finally arrives. As we're just going to say that this version of Endeavor, he's just sick this day. He's sick. He got sick, and he wasn't able to report to the mission because he had a severe case of diarrhea. As this is when, pretty much Mount Lady would be the only one there with some little girl with a wind quirk who just started, actually. It's her niece. And this is when, the leaders, the scoundrels, I guess you could say, the butt jiggle gang. The butt jiggle gang would pretty much approach the train as they would hop on without anybody noticing that they got on the train. As they were under the impression that nobody was going to be there guarding it, as Deku would have actually told them all that there should be no potential threats in terms of robbing this little operation. As Deku would have actually told them all that, yeah, it looks like this is going to be the perfect score. They can, be able to do this, and, nothing is exactly going to be happening, since this is it. This is the easiest mission. Come on now. Like they're going to be rich. Come on now. Who wouldn't be excited for this? And this is when, they would pretty much hop on the train unnoticed by anybody, as the true scoundrels that they are. As this is when Deku would proceed to tell them all that there's heroes aboard. As they would go on to this next side of the train and open the top of the window of the train. As they would see that there's the pro hero Mount Lady on the train, as well as some little girl. As this is when they would decide that their plan is going to be to act like Deku was just some kid who got stranded on the train and they're helping him out. As Deku would take off his outfit and just put on some normal clothes, as this is when the butt jiggle gang would decide that they need to put their plan into action. As they would knock on the door and Mount Lady would answer saying, "Yes, who's there?" As this is when the leader would pretty much say, "Yes, Mount Lady, I didn't know you were on this train." As she would say, "Yeah, I'm on here." As he would say, "Well, we found this kid here on the back. We're just here for, some random duties that we were hired for." As Mount Lady would ask who they were hired by, as he would just say the name of the train company that they're on. As this is when Mount Lady would say, as he would tell her that this kid looks like he's really sick. As they would take him inside and Mount Lady would open the door for them. As all three of them would pretty much proceed to walk inside. And this is when one of the members would grab the other girl that was with Mount Lady. As he would point his his weapon straight point blank to Wendy's face. Yeah, we're just gonna call her Wendy. As this is when they would proceed to aim it right at her. As Mount Lady would be like, "What are you guys doing?" As this is when Deku would say, "We're taking over this whole operation. Everything on this is ours." As this is when she would say, "Not if I can help it." As Deku would then proceed to say, "Your quirk allows you to grow exponentially fast, but you can only use it in certain areas, meaning right now, you're useless." as he would say, boys, let's go, as they would all huddle up together and say, quadruple ecstasy, as they would shoot their toxic gas straight at Mount Lady, as Mount Lady would be sent flying off of the train, as she would just be passed out, one-shotted by the gang, as Mount Lady would be on the ground just twitching, like, just like almost dead. As this is when Deku and the rest of them pretty much grab the girl and say, listen, girl, you're gonna be with us until this entire operation is over. As this is when the girl would be like, why? And she would say, why are you guys doing this? As Deku would just proceed to explain to the girl that they're true scoundrels. And they're, they were cut off by the world, so they gotta make their own living somehow, right? As she would say, no, let me go. As this is when Deku would say another word and you'll meet the same fate. As he puts his gun on her. Not really gun, but you guys know he would put that dump truck on her face. As she would say, yeah, don't give me that same treatment. I'll be good. As this is when Deku would proceed to say, yeah, you better not say anything. As this is when pretty much Deku would proceed to, grab her and hold her hostage. Up until the very end, when this is when Deku would proceed to pretty much look up to the boys, as he would say, all right, guys, we got this little sucker in the bag. As, she would point out to them how they're going to carry all this stuff out of here. As Deku would look towards his friends and he would be like, as the rest of them would be like, yeah, how are we going to get all this stuff? Which a great plan. As one of them would actually let something slip out saying, what's your plan, boss? As, the guy would get mad. He'd be like, what? The boss? But I thought I was the boss. As Deku would say, you are, boss. As he would then look towards him and say, well, I didn't really think this through. I guess we can only grab a couple of bars of gold and have to run out of here then, because we're not exactly going to be able to take it all out before the police arrive. As they would say, right. And this is when Deku and their team would pretty much go up to the girl as they would release a quadruple ecstasy blast point blank to her face. As this is when they would grab about 7 bars of gold each, as they would run off the train and they would jump right off of it, as they would use their gas to pretty much propel themselves up into the air. As this is when they would land safely and run away with the pieces of gold. As they would go ahead and cash it all out for money, and turns out that the pieces of gold that they had ended up getting were really big and solid pieces of gold. As they would get a decent amount of money for it, nothing too crazy that they would have gotten if they got all of it. But the members would pretty much tell Deku that was a great idea, that he's a true scoundrel. He's the embodiment of evil. As Deku would just start chuckling, thinking to himself that, hey, maybe if I can't fit in with normal people, I can at least fit in with these guys. As this is when, for the next couple of months, for the next 11 months, let's say, I said 3 months pass, 10 months, 7, let's say, for the next 8 months, they would proceed to pretty much just do a lot of random dumb things around. As one day they would get a notice that there's this guy hiring. They're called the League of Villains. As the leader would tell them all that they should definitely go hear these guys out, seeing that they actually have a really good paying job for them. As Deku would decide that, yeah, that is a great idea. As they would all pretty much go to the League of Villains place where the evil broker pretty much gains all the members. As they would go over there, and the guy would pretty much be really, really awkward about these guys. He'd say, I don't know about you guys, but I guess I'll let you guys in on it. As this is when Deku would proceed to pretty much tell them all that this is going to be great. They're going to get some great pay, and who knows what they're going to be doing. As this is when they would meet Shigaraki. And at first, the leader would be like, oh my god, what happened to your lips? As this is when Shigaraki would say, huh? What do you mean? What happened to my lips? My lips are just fine. As he would proceed to tell them that if he doesn't shut up, he's going to disintegrate him. As the rest of the members would just be like, scary. As this is when they would pretty much be informed about the USJ attack and how that's going to be going down. As they would decide that, yeah, they're in. And they actually wouldn't be told about the main objective. They would just be told the basics. Since what if they get caught? They don't want any members to be telling their locations or anything. So they would just tell them that they're going to attack the USJ and get a little bit of money. And Deku's actually a little hesitant about that, but he would ask if they're going to be killing anybody. As Shigaraki would pretty much lie to them, telling them that no, they're just going to hold the students hostage until they give them what they need. As this is when they would say that this is the perfect thing. We are true scoundrels. We're ready for any mission. As this is when Shigaraki would tell them all to get ready for the next week when the attack will be happening. As Shigaraki would pretty much gather all of his members together. And this is when the entire operation would go to canon. Except this time, when Mineta and, Tsuyu would land on the boat, the Butt Jiggle gang will be there waiting for them. And as Tsuyu lands, Deku would hold his leg up as he says, point blank, ecstasy. As he would let one rip right in front of Tsuyu's face, taking her down since she has a pretty heightened sense of smell. She would pass out instantly in the way that Urza did, as this is when they would grab Mineta, who would just be screaming like, ah, let me go! As this is when the rest of the guys would hold Mineta hostage, as they would say that if they don't give up, then if they don't listen to their demands, then they're all going to be screwed. As this is when pretty much everybody would be having things go like normal, up until some random hot-headed blonde kid would jump on the ship saying, I'll kill you! As he would jump over there to the boat, as Deku would see that it's Bakugo of all people. As he would say, Bakugo? Where? As he would say, oh, it's you, Deku. You're with these guys? I always knew you were a useless, quirkless loser. As Deku would get angry and say, well, I'm not quirkless I've never been quirkless, Kachan. And if you want, I could show you the extent of my quirk. As Bakugo would say, I'm going to enjoy kicking your butt, Midoriya. As he would then look towards Deku and get into a fighting stance. As he would then rush at Deku. And this is when the true scoundrels would run at Bakugo and try to punch him. As Bakugo would fling them off of the boat. And this is when the leader would say, no! I'll save you, laddies. As he would jump off of the boat to go save his crewmates. As this is when Deku would jump up into the air. Right as Bakugo was about to attack him, he would jump on him and have his, he would put his thing on Bakugo's face as he would then say, point blank, ecstasy. As he would just shit all over Bakugo's face as Bakugo's nose would fall off. Like in the episode where Patrick got a nose and it basically crinkled up and fell off. That's what would happen to Bakugo from the stench. That'd be the full-powered blast of Deku's. As Deku would have pretty much murdered Bakugo right there. As Bakugo would be unconscious for the next couple of hours. As they would rush off the boat and go to dry land. As this is when they would see All Might fighting against some giant Nomu creature. As this is when the villains would see what's going on. As Shigaraki would tell them to jump in there and take All Might down. As the scoundrels would look towards him and say, you got it. As this is when, the leader would jump in front of All Might. As he would say, sorry lad, but I have to help this huge bird thingy. As he would say, we're on their side. As he would jump in front of All Might and say, I've always dreamed of this. As he would say, point blank, ecstasy. As, he would shoot it point blank right in his face. As All Might would drop to the ground, the symbol of peace defeated. With one single attack. And now a lot of you guys may be like, yo, come on now, you did not just kill All Might with one blast. As come on, you guys do remember that the leader was able to take down a full-powered Urza with just one attack. He murdered her. So, I don't want to hear it. And this is when Shigaraki would just begin to laugh. As this is when Shigaraki would laugh and start clapping, telling them that they did a great job. As he would start clapping and walking up to All Might, as he would say, and now to finish the job. As he would put 4 fingers on All Might. As this is when he would start decaying one of his arms. As Deku would notice what's going on. As this is when Deku would realize that he has to jump in and help some way. As Deku would jump right in front of Shigaraki as he lets one rip once again. As Shigaraki would fall unconscious. And this is when Kurogear would rush at the Butt Jiggle gang. And this is when Deku would say that we gotta get out of here. And before they can get out, the heroes would arrive as they would capture Deku and the Butt Jiggle gang. And Kurogear would have to get away with the Nomu, Shigaraki, and himself. As Shigaraki would say that he was so close. He almost had him. If it wasn't for that Jiggle Butt gang, he would have killed All Might. As Deku would just be interrogated as well as the rest of the Butt Jiggle gang members. As this will mark the ending to the greatest gang of all time, the Butt Jiggle gang. Deku would have been restrained. But if this video gets enough likes, I will be dropping a part 2 where they're going to be planning a prison break. And they're going to get out and get even towards that league of villains who ended up getting them caught. Since they are true scoundrels and you haven't seen the last of them. But with that being said, guys, it has been your boy Zether. I hope you have an amazing April. And I hope you guys enjoyed this little April Fool's special. But with that being said, guys, it has been your boy Zether, and I am out.